It all starts in 2022 with the quiet hum of a computer and a man who is bone tired. That man is Markiplier, a titan of YouTube with a kingdom built on games and personality. And he's playing a 20-minute indie horror game called Iron Lung. The game is graphically simple, its story is sparse, and it is deeply, profoundly unsettling. You're piloting a tiny submarine through an ocean of blood on a desolate moon. You're completely alone, and you're blind to everything outside. Your only connection to the outside world is a grainy, black and white photograph you can take of what's out there. It's a game about being isolated and suffocated by dread. But as he played, something shifted. Markiplier has said that he was genuinely exhausted that day, and that exhaustion bled into the recording, blurring the line between the creator and the character. He wasn't just playing a doomed man in a tin can, he was the man in the chair, staring at grainy readouts, feeling the crushing weight of the blood ocean around him. It was a moment of pure, unscripted connection. He fully embodied the role of a submarine operator. Now, most playthroughs end when the video does, but this one didn't. It was more of a beginning. It kicked off an unbelievable journey, a creative obsession that would lead from a quiet moment in a gaming chair to the roar of thousands of movie theaters. This is the story of how a single, authentic spark of inspiration led to a self-financed, record-breaking independent film that is challenging the very foundations of horror and horror games and Hollywood. This is how a YouTuber, a submarine, and an ocean of blood changed everything. To really get the impact of the Iron Lung movie, you have to understand the game. This isn't some sprawling blockbuster title, it's the exact opposite, developed by a single person, David Szymanski. Iron Lung is a lesson in minimalist horror. It came out in 2022 into a world saturated with jump scares and flashy monsters. Iron Lung was different, more cerebral, more existentially terrifying. The setup is brilliantly simple. Years after an event called the Quiet Rapture made all stars and habitable planets vanish, Convict is offered freedom. The catch? He has to be welded inside a rusty, claustrophobic submarine, the Iron Lung, and sent to explore an ocean of blood on a forgotten moon. The game's genius is in what it doesn't let you do. You have a window, but it's been covered. You navigate using only a map, coordinates, and a cheap camera that snaps one grainy, haunting picture at a time. The horror isn't what you see exactly, it's what you don't. It's the groaning metal of the hull, the fleeting shapes you might have just seen on camera, and the suffocating feeling that you are one tiny soul trapped in an impossibly huge and hostile place. It's a game you can finish in about half an hour, but its atmosphere of dread can stick with you for days. It was this quality that grabbed a hold of Mark Fishbach, the man the world knows as Markiplier. After over a decade on YouTube, he's played thousands of games and built this empire, but Iron Lung hit different. He didn't just play it, he felt it. His real-life fatigue became a channel for a much deeper experience, and he wasn't just performing for an audience, he was living in that role. The jump from player to filmmaker didn't happen in a boardroom, it was shockingly simple. Markiplier reached out to the game's creator, David Syzmanski. As the story goes, Markiplier sent an initial message asking kind of about the game and trying to kind of break the ice before asking about the whole movie side of things, which, after multiple discussions, led into what was the spark. It wasn't a business deal, it was a conversation between two creators, and what followed was a close collaboration. Szymanski became a key part of the process, a guardian of the game's core ideas who helped Markiplier expand the world without losing its soul. He provided the lore and the blessing for the film to become its own thing, separate from the game. This gave Markiplier the creative freedom to turn the short experience into a feature film, ensuring it felt like an authentic adaptation and not just a hollow cash grab. The whole project was born from a deep respect for the source material, which is a true rarity in the troubled history of video game movies. With the creator's blessing, the real work began. This wasn't going to be a YouTube special. Markiplier wanted a real theatrical movie, and he was going to do it his way. That meant total creative control, which meant one thing: he had to pay for it himself. The Iron Lung film was entirely self-funded, with a reported budget of around $3-4 million. For a Hollywood blockbuster, that's pocket change, but for an independent creator, it's a massive bet-the-house gamble on your own vision. The production, which took place in Austin, Texas at Troublemaker Studios, was, in Markiplier's words, pretty chaotic. This was guerrilla filmmaking on a huge scale. The centerpiece was the set itself, a massive practical submarine interior built on a motion control rig that could realistically simulate being tossed around in the deep. Markiplier wasn't just the star, he was the writer, director, and editor, pouring all his energy and money into this one obsession. One detail from the production really captured people's imagination. The film used a staggering amount of fake blood. And it's not just a fun fact, they now have the record for most fake blood used. And in an age of digital effects, choosing to use a literal sea of practical blood showed a commitment to a gritty, tangible reality. It was messy and expensive and a logistical engineering nightmare, but it was real. The biggest creative challenge was simply, how do you stretch a 20-minute game defined by its minimalism into a 2-hour movie without losing its magic? The answer was to lean into the restrictions. Markiplier made a bold and commercially risky choice. The entire film would stay trapped inside the submarine with the main character. The audience would share his limited, distorted view of the world. No cuts to mission control, no sweeping shots of monsters. The viewer would be just as blind and isolated as the protagonist. Granted, there are some minute glimpses into the world outside the submarine, but the camera never leaves, even going as far as using the bloods to simulate prison bars on the only window available. Markiplier argued that creativity thrives under these restrictions. He intentionally kept the parts a traditional studio would have cut instantly. The monotony, the boredom, the crushing loneliness. To remove them would have been to betray the very soul of Iron Lung. Even a simple shot of him wiping blood on his trousers is simple and would likely be cut by a bigger studio, but in itself contains so much character and innate building for that environment. The film was designed to be an almost perfect replica of the game's oppressive atmosphere, showing just how deeply Markiplier understood the source material. He knew the horror wasn't about a monster, it was about watching a mind slowly unravel under unimaginable pressure. And it wasn't just a vanity project, it was the culmination of a decade of storytelling, fusing his skills as an entertainer with his emerging voice as a filmmaker. Every underdog story needs a giant to slay, and for Iron Lung, the Goliath wasn't one thing, but an entire system, the skeptical, impenetrable fortress of Hollywood. The first major hurdle was the industry's infamous video game movie curse. For decades, Hollywood has mostly failed to adapt games well, leaving a trail of pretty expensive flops that misunderstood their source material. Video game movies were often seen as lazy cash grabs, so a film based on a niche, experimental game already faced a little bit of an uphill battle. Then there's the perception of YouTubers. Despite having audiences that dwarf network television, online creators are often seen by old media as amateurs. Markiplier himself talked about this lack of respect, noting that before the film's success, no major studios were bashing down his door to make the movie. There was a belief that a YouTube project, no matter how ambitious, just wasn't a real movie. But the biggest hurdle was distribution. Making a movie is one thing, getting it into thousands of theaters is another. This is where the industry's true gatekeepers live. Markiplier had meetings with studios about distributing Iron Lung, but the offers he got came with a price he refused to pay: creative control. After funding, directing, writing, and starring in it, he wasn't about to hand over his creation to a committee. He turned down all the deals, choosing the much harder, more uncertain path of self-distribution. This decision pitted him directly against the studio system, and he wouldn't have a massive marketing budget, didn't have a guaranteed number of screens. The initial plan was incredibly modest, a limited release of 40 or 50 independent theaters. It was a strategy that would normally cause a film to kind of vanish without a trace. The Goliath was the entire economic structure of the film industry, a system built to favor huge blockbusters, not self-financed experimental horror films from an internet star. The risk was no longer just about money, it was about proving the skeptics wrong. The triumph of Iron Lung wasn't a single moment, it was a chain reaction that revealed a major shift in the balance of power between creators and the industry. The battle wasn't won with a traditional marketing campaign, it was won by mobilizing a community. It started with that modest plan for a limited release, but then Markiplier did something no studio could. He spoke directly to his millions of subscribers. He made a simple suggestion. If you want to see Iron Lung in your town, call your local theater and ask for it. And what happened next was incredible. Theaters across the country, from small indies to major chains like AMC and Cinemark, were flooded with calls and emails. The demand was so overwhelming that some theater managers reportedly thought it was a coordinated bot attack. It wasn't. It was the real-world power of a fan base that had followed this journey for years. The results were staggering. The planned release in a handful of theaters exploded. On January 30th, 2026, Iron Lung opened in 4,000 theaters worldwide. A niche run had transformed into a full-scale global release powered entirely by grassroots support. Markiplier's audience had discovered their own power. Then came the opening weekend. Industry analysts were watching. Iron Lung did the unthinkable, bringing in an incredible $17.8 million domestically in its debut weekend. On a budget of around $3 or $4 million, the film made its money back more than 4 times over in just 3 days. It was a massive financial success, and as of late February 2026, the film had grossed roughly $40 million in North America and a total of about $50 million worldwide, a return of more than 12 times its budget. It became the most profitable film of the year so far, a title owned completely outside the studio system. The critical reception was maybe the most telling part of its success. The film landed with kind of mixed reviews from critics, with some taking issue with the film's pacing, but the audience score told a completely different story, a powerful 88-89%. This disconnect was crucial. The audience, who understood the context and the source material, praised the film as a masterclass of adapting a video game, celebrating the care evident in every frame. The triumph wasn't just in the box office, it was in the validation from the people it was made for. Markiplier had refused to compromise, and his audience rewarded him in a way Hollywood couldn't possibly ignore. The success of Iron Lung is more than a feel-good story. It's a tremor that has sent cracks through the foundation of the traditional film industry. Its legacy isn't just a $50 million box office gross, it's the new landscape it's revealed. First, Iron Lung shattered the video game movie curse. It succeeded by not watering down its source material, but by embracing its weird niche horror. It proved that respecting the game is a commercially viable strategy, and it sends a clear message to the industry. The key to a good adaptation isn't a bigger budget, but a genuine understanding of what made people love the game in the first place. More importantly, the film exposed a massive blind spot in Hollywood. For years, the industry was willfully ignoring the potential of YouTubers. Iron Lung has changed that. Markiplier said that after the film's performance, the tone in Hollywood has shifted. Studio executives who passed on the project are now calling and asking, how'd you do it? They see the numbers, they see the engagement, and they see a threat. As Markiplier put it, quote, they see money, they can see the threat that's there, and I think that's good. They need some competition. They need a kick in the ass, end quote. The new landscape is one where independent creators with built-in audiences are no longer just making online content, they are potential moguls. The Iron Lung model, using a direct fan relationship to drive theatrical demand. It's a game changer. It proves audience engagement can be more powerful than a 9-figure marketing budget. It suggests a future where more creators can bring their projects to life on their own terms. Markiplier seems aware of this potential, but he's also cautious. He's said he doesn't want to be pigeonholed as just the games guy, and that his next projects will likely be an original script. Still, he has shown that the creator-led model works. The success of Iron Lung isn't just about one YouTuber making one movie. It's proof that a vision doesn't need to be watered down to go global, and that the most powerful force in entertainment might just be the authentic bond between the creator and the community. The story of Iron Lung is a testament to what happens when an artist stays true to their vision and a community rises up to support it. But what do you think? Is this a one-time thing, only possible for one of YouTube's biggest stars? Or is this the start of a real revolution in filmmaking, where more independent creators can take on the system and win? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. From a tired playthrough of a 20-minute indie game to a $50 million global phenomenon, the story of Iron Lung is one of the most disruptive in modern entertainment. It all started with the real connection between a player and a game, a spark of inspiration that Markiplier refused to let go. He carried that spark through a grueling, self-funded production, protecting it from the compromises of a system that just didn't get it. He trusted that the game's oppressive claustrophobia and minimalist dread were what made it special. He faced down the Hollywood system, turned down deals that would have cost him his creative freedom, and bet everything on himself and his audience, and that audience answered. They turned a tiny limited release into an international event, proving that a passionate community can be more powerful than any marketing campaign. The result is a film that not only honored its source material, but rewrote the rules for independent creators. Iron Lung changed horror by showing that niche ideas can have mass appeal. It changed video game adaptations by proving faithfulness is a feature, not a bug. But most of all, it demonstrated in cold, hard cash that the wall between creators and Hollywood isn't as high as it used to be. It's a defiant monument to artistic integrity and a roadmap for a new generation of filmmakers. And it's a stark reminder that sometimes the biggest ideas start in the quietest places, like a tiny submarine lost in an ocean of blood. And thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then why don't you subscribe? And after you do that, and you want to watch another video essay of mine, click on this one here. Well, I'll see you on the next video. And goodbye.